Hello, and welcome to another edition of the NRS Retail Insights Podcast. I'm John Lofstock, and today I am very proud to be joined by an old friend, someone many of you know, someone who's kind of been at the very forefront of retail technology and artificial intelligence. Bill Scott, who is the president of StoreReport and a program that many of you know. And if you don't, we're going to learn all about it today. So good morning, Bill. How are you today?
I'm doing just fine, John. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So, as I mentioned, and you and I have spoken a little bit earlier, you, when I first started working in this industry in the early 90s, you were one of the first people that we noticed that was into technology. And it may sound for if you've been in the industry 10 or 15 years, of course you know scanning, of course you know how to mine data, but when I first met Bill, there was no scanning. No retailer was scanning. No retailer was using data in the convenience store industry to kind of track their customers. So I have been learning from Bill for decades now. So one of us got old, Bill, me or you?
It's probably me.
So tell us a little
But
bit, Store Report, tell us a little bit about how you've seen the evolution of retail technology.
uh, okay, go back to your scanning situation. I first noticed scanning in 1986 at a Texas oil marketers convention where a young man was there and he was scanning products and no one else, like you say, no one else was using scanning. And I went over and I'd done some investigation. In fact, I had a customer that asked me was an oil company in Arkansas that asked me if I knew anything about scanning, and I said, "Well, not much." I said, "I know NCR has scanning on their registers, but I'm going to the Texas Oil Markets Convention. This was in 80, as I said, in '86."
Mhm.
And I went over and talked to this young man, and I asked him a few questions, and I said, "Well, how many barcodes are they on the products out there?" He says somewhere around 400,000. And I said, "Well, how do you get these barcodes?" He said, "You have to enter them." I said, "I'm not entering 400,000 barcodes into anything." And so that's how it first got started. But scanning in convenience stores started really slow. I remember the first one I actually saw in action was in Houston, Texas, and they were complaining that it didn't work right. And but nowadays, you have to have scanning in order to keep track of your item. Uh, I started in an environment in the '70s where no one really had computers to speak of. You had cash registers were simply punching department keys, and we didn't really get into that until later in the '80s when we started having uh, more more ability to do more with that.
Hmm.
And I want to talk just a little bit, if you don't mind, about artificial intelligence before we get involved in this, because artificial intelligence is being misunderstood by 90% of the people. Artificial intelligence does not allow a, a computer to become sentient. And to people that don't understand the word, and I may not even be pronouncing it right, I hear it different every time I turn around. But what sentient means, it means that we are aware. Like you and I have minds and we know that we exist, whereas computers do not. And the word artificial intelligence was first mentioned in a conference at Dartmouth College at the Dartmouth conference of 1956 or 57,
Wow.
and has evolved over that period of time into something that has been misrepresented for a long time. But basically, what artificial intelligence is, other than being an environment rather than a product, is all about data. And as I write computer programs, I've been doing that for over 40 years. I uh, I will write a computer program, and uh, I will do it in a way that I know that it will help my customer get the information that he needs. Just give you an example. When we scan in an item of inventory in our system, we don't just keep track of it. It goes through a series of algorithms, which are snippets of computer programs that do a lot of things with that item. First of all, it reaverages its turn rate over a period of time. It reaverages the inventory between parent and child relationships, such as gardens and singles, and it goes a little bit deeper than that. It checks to see what other products that are related to that product, which is called clusters, and uh, and it takes a large computer to be able to do that, and it has to be done off site. You can't put all of these programs on a cash register because the cash register is just a personal computer, Windows operating system, and it will bog down in a hurry. So we have a large computer that we can host anywhere. Right now, it's hosted in Tampa, Florida. It's called IBM AS400, and the AS400 computer can start off as a small business computer in your office, and it can get to gigantic. It's infinitely expandable, and so we could take and connect our computer to 1,000 convenience stores, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. I guess there's no limit because as the computer runs out of the ability to expand, you just keep adding more hardware to it. And you can think of it as a city, as it grows and they have to have more areas for businesses, they just keep growing. And the programs that were written when the computer was small and just in your office to when it is now a huge piece of equipment servicing, let's say, 100,000 convenience stores at one time. It's still the same programs and the same operating system. Everything's the same. It's just bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And the way our system works is we will poll the cash registers every 2 minutes. And the reason we can't get the information out of these cash registers in faster than 2 minutes is because the Windows operating system will shut down if we continuously, ping it looking for data. So we have to give it 2 minutes rest before we go back and give it and get it in 2 minutes. And this allows us to do wonderful things with the data. For instance, we can take this information that we have, and when we get a piece of data, it actually didn't. We don't just store that data. It goes through a series of algorithms or code snippets, and it does things to this data. The data itself is pristine, but what it does is it takes this data and it generates more data. Like for instance, we want to know how often an item turns in a period of 90 days, so we can create a virtual consignment arrangement with inventory. So if you only carry what you can sell in the next week during that delivery cycle, it saves a tremendous amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
But that data doesn't tell you that. It comes in. That data has to be regenerated in the system. And if you may place an order at 5 o'clock this afternoon, you don't want to wait while some programmer goes back there and starts figuring out, what kind of what kind of data what kind of inventory they need to order, and the store manager just can't do it. So, go ahead. Did you want to say something?
I was
I
going to
know
say,
I'm.
well, how does that now you're talking about manipulating data that's already come in. Can you also use this data to do predictive analytics to kind of look forward?
Well, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Is we want to be able to. What my goal is to be able to order the inventory on consignment for a convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
That's my goal, and we've got the ability to do that now. We ran a test with McLean's back in I think it was 2014 during that area with a convenience store in California, and it worked well. Unfortunately, the convenience store sold to somebody else after a period of time, but during that time, it worked very well because we can get about 96% accuracy. And people say, well, what happens if you run out? If you run out, I would much rather run out of an item than have an out of stock situation every now and then than have $50,000 worth of inventory back in the storeroom eating up my profit.
Yeah.
And it's a trade off. And we do that with everything. I mean, we don't hire double the employees because, we can't afford to have that many employees, but we may have an extra employee. It's a trade off. We have to pay that employee, but we give better service. So, what have you. But it's, that is an example of artificial intelligence. The computer is not sentient. It's simply running algorithms that we create. And the best example I can give, and my new book is coming out any day now, if I can never get it away from the editor. But if I can get people to understand how it works, the artificial intelligence is an environment in which we need to learn to navigate within. And that we can share a lot of data. For instance, there's millions of these UPC codes, and now they're talking about RFID tags are available. They're a little too expensive to put on every product in the store, but it's going to happen someday. We'll be able to use RFID and just wave a wand over an order of inventory, and it'll come back and give us all the information we need. But if we can order just what the store will sell over the next 7-day period of time, we can send the order to the supplier. The supplier can fulfill the order and ship it to the store. And then we will pay the invoice for the supplier by taking pennies out of the bank account, out of his bank, a separate account he sets up for every sale that he makes. So that allows us, or will allow us, to be able to perform a service that heretofore is unheard of. And imagine what that would save a retailer. He wouldn't have to buy inventory anymore. He wouldn't have $50,000-$60,000 worth of inventory at cost on his books. It generally ends up costing him 33% in carrying costs at the end of the year. And all of his inventory would be ordered for him, so he wouldn't have to have employees in the store doing that. And this is an example of how we can use artificial intelligence to do this sort of thing. Because without the existence of artificial intelligence, which incidentally is all about the data, it would be impossible. And it's very difficult to explain to someone who thinks artificial intelligence is Schwarzenegger walking around with an AR-15 rifle, shooting at people, and has nothing whatsoever to do with that. Artificial intelligence means the environment and a program that is compatible with artificial intelligence and data that is compatible with artificial intelligence is what's being marketed now as artificial intelligence, but actually it's just a product. And the sooner people realize that, I think the better off they'll be.
Sure. So now we could play this out at the different size chains. If you're a small operator, having less inventory in the back is a home run. I mean, you cannot afford, if you have a couple of stores, you can't afford to have $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 worth of inventory, whether it's in alcohol or tobacco or some of the higher priced items. You just need that money. And if you're a larger chain, with 100 stores, you can't afford to have $20,000, $30,000 of inventory per store. So this technology, it seems like it pays for itself over time.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really doesn't cost anything. If you stop and think about it, well, I give you an item for free, and you sell it to me, and you make a profit, and you take 2 or 3 cents of that that profit and give it back. What I see retailers, and not just convenience stores, I mean, this can be any small retailer. What I see them in the future being is just salesmen or people that supply them with inventory and get paid a commission. And because it's just not working the way it is right now, and it's getting even worse.
Hmm.
One time I was in a convenience store, and I won't tell you the product brand, but it doesn't make it's not as powerful as if you knew the brand, but I'm not going to say it because it's not appropriate. But it was a drink sale, or actually a direct or drink delivery that came in, and the driver had an 8 foot long train of products. And one of the products, it was so popular that he was running out of it. So he got on the phone and he called the drink distributor and said, "Please send me some XYZ." And so the uh, the driver showed up with that plus another 50% of the delivery was stuff he didn't need, mainly those off-brand drinks that nobody buys. And I was out in the store counting the inventory with my handheld, scanner, and the manager comes running out of the office and he says, wait a minute, I don't have room for all this." And the driver said that the pre-salesman told me that if you didn't take the whole order, I was supposed to bring it all back. Well, the manager of the store, he didn't have the authority to reject this XYZ product that he really needed. So, and no one was at the office that could intervene. And so he just took it. And later that afternoon, you'd see little bodies crawling over the cases of drinks trying to get to the coolers to work in them, which is dangerous. And if OSHA ever got into the coolers of some of these convenience stores, they probably wouldn't have coolers after they left because they just suppliers will just do anything in the world they can do to get rid of their inventory. But I want to interject something here that is very important. I'm not after suppliers. Suppliers are doing exactly what retailers wanted them to do. So if you go back into the 70s, after the oil embargo, when convenience stores really started happening, I mean, we always had 7-Eleven, which Pack-a-Sack and all these large uh, franchises. But if you go back into there, where a lot of people had convenience stores, a lot of my customers that I started working with, which were oil marketers that sold gasoline and diesel fuel and oil and grease and all that stuff. And they went to suppliers and said, "Hey, we want to open a convenience store because we're noticed that 7-Eleven over here is doing a good job, but we're selling them fuel, but they don't have them all over town. So we want to open 3 or 4 stores up. Will you, as our supplier, a grocery supplier, help us keep that store full of inventory that customers will buy?" And it was only obvious because best thing to do because these suppliers were supplying the grocery stores, and they absolutely knew what these customers in that particular market area needed. So it was a good idea, and suppliers said, "Well, certainly we'll do that for you." But the suppliers made a promise to the retailers that they didn't really want to make. It turned out that the retailers began to count on the suppliers to manage their inventory for them. And so the real estate, I mean, real estate, the you can see where my mind is. The convenience store industry was actually born with the supplier managing the inventory, and that's the way it's always been. Now, this created a real problem for the supplier and an opportunity. first of all, they had to hire pre-salesmen to go out there and check the stores to be sure that they were running properly. They had the inventory that they needed because they were responsible for everything in the store, for inventory wise. And then it didn't take long before the suppliers started thinking, well, this brand X, which is our competitor, he's got more inventory in the store than we do. So you pre-salesman, you go out there and you find if you can find a place where we can put more of our inventory without caring whether the retailer could get rid of it or not. So the retailer became a auxiliary warehouse for the overstock that the supplier was accumulating. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. I've talked to several suppliers that told me they know this is happening and they don't like it either.
Mm-hmm.
But this pre-salesman work on commission, and it got to the point back in I would say in the mid '90s, when they were doing everything they could to get retailers to allow them to put stock in their stores that they couldn't sell. And incidentally, 82% of all these new items that just come out don't sell. So, you got these shippers with these new items in it. You got a discount on these items if you bought some others. And it became ridiculous.
And
And you found,
store managers would be taking golf clubs and golf bags to put this stuff on to put it out on the sales floor, taking gifts.
yeah.
Mhm.
And you had color TVs in the
Mhm.
offices. One of my customers had so many color TVs, he started giving them away to people just to get rid of them. And I know of a VP of convenience stores in one company that was fired because he was getting kickbacks and wasn't sharing them with the owner, who probably would
Wanted
have
his own thing.
would have liked it if he had done that. And it became it's just got completely out of hand.
Mhm. So
So this eliminate all that.
yeah, now I don't know if you see the time up there. So we're Zoom is only allowing us so much time. So one of the things with the remaining time we have, Bill, I want you to talk about where you see this technology going in the next couple of years and what your best suggestion is to convenience store retailers that are looking to put this technology to work for them.
Well, I see it going towards uh, franchising convenience store operations that will be able to purchase inventory on consignment or acquire inventory on consignment and do nothing but sell inventory and collect commissions. I think that's the way it has to be because we have to share a lot of things like
Mhm.
UPC codes and and market analysis. So it just all makes sense if we cooperate with each other to a certain degree. Every retailer has its own unique market, is our fingerprint, as I call it. And what sells in one area may not sell well in an area just 5 blocks away.
Mhm.
So the only way you're going to be able to determine that is by thorough analysis. And I think what you're going to see in the next 20 years, first of all, you're going to see a lot more mom and pops and a lot less conglomerates, big operations. Because if you look at the data in the year 2000, we had the convenience store industry had, I think, uh, most of it, the lion's share of it was stores that had 501 or more stores, and the smallest segment was mom and pop. Mom and pops was very small. In NACS's recent uh, report for 2024, the mom and pops now control 64% of the market, and the big conglomerates are shrinking. I just picked up something yesterday. Every day you turn around and find that some of these big operations are folding. And so, I think we're going to see more and more mom and pop operations, companies with less than 10 stores
Mhm.
or ten or less stores. And and they're not going to be able to afford to not carry their inventory on consignment. It's going to be too expensive for them to go out and buy inventory. And if we can go to them and say, okay, we'll buy your inventory, we'll pay for it, you sell it, you pay us back after you sell it. That's basically how it works. I think that's going to be the wave of the future.
Great. I appreciate your time. So we're
And
just
it's all in my book.
all right. What's the name of the book and where can everyone find it?
It'll come out any day now. The name of it is Artificial Intelligence, an Action That Appears Human. And, it'll be on Amazon any day now. I just have to get it away from the editor who's dragging their feet.
Well, good. I want to thank you for your time, Bill. I really enjoyed catching up. I have been a big fan of the work you've been doing now for some 25 years that I've come across what you're doing, and I look forward to seeing what you're doing here for the next 25 years.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you.
Have a good day. And I want to thank everyone
See
for
you later.
tuning in to this edition of the NRS Retail Insights Podcast. Glad you could join us, and we hope to have you at a future podcast. Have a good afternoon, everyone.